You're listening to Haunted BC. True stories from the edge of the map, where the forests are deep, the past is never really the past, and some places never let go. Each week we explore the ghostly, the forgotten, and the disturbingly real tales that haunt British Columbia. From abandoned asylums and haunted lighthouses, to spectral hitchhikers and towns that vanished without a trace. These aren't just stories. They're echoes. Echoes of lives lived, lives lost, and lives still lingering. So turn down the lights, touch up the volume, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. Welcome to Haunted BC, where truth wears the mask of myth and memory refuses to rest. I'm your host, Matthew Heneghan, and tonight we begin where British Columbia's history folds in on itself, where science, suffering, and the supernatural meet. Our story begins just outside of Kamloops, on the edge of the Thompson River. Nestled in the shadows of rolling hills sits the decaying shell of a once thriving institution, Tranquille Sanatorium. Today it's abandoned, but it wasn't always. In the early 20th century, tuberculosis wasn't just a disease, it was a death sentence. They called it consumption back then, as if the sickness devoured you slowly, piece by piece. And in truth, it did. The British Columbia government, desperate to isolate and treat the growing number of patients, chose a remote parcel of land near Kamloops to build a hospital. The air was dry, the surroundings were quiet, and in 1907, King Edward VII Sanatorium, later renamed Tranquille, opened its doors. It was meant to be a place of healing, but time and lore had other plans. The buildings multiplied as the patient numbers grew. Over the decades, Tranquille transformed into a sprawling complex, complete with staff quarters, gardens, livestock, a power plant, and even a school for the children of the workers. It became a self-contained village, one with its own rhythm, its own secrets, and some say, its own spirits. More than 1,500 souls died on those grounds, some from the illness, some from despair, and some from things that have never been documented. Things we still can't explain. Of all the stories whispered in Kamloops, one name rises again and again. She's called the Lady in White, and she has never left Tranquille. The legend goes like this. She was a nurse in the 1930s. Young, kind, devoted, she took care of the children's ward during the early days of the sanatorium's expansion. Her name, depending on who you ask or what you read, was Margaret, or Alice, or more formally, Miss Bell. She died tragically. That much is documented, and that is certain. Some say it was a patient, delirious with fever, that pulled her down some stairs during a coughing fit, and she broke her neck. Others claim that she took her own life after witnessing too much suffering. There's an even darker version, one where she was locked in a storage room by mistake during an overnight shift and never made it out. The truth of how she died may never be known, but the sightings, those are consistent. They begin just after dusk. Visitors, urban explorers, and former security guards have all reported the same exact thing. A figure in white, standing near the children's ward or at the mouth of some of the underground tunnels. She is silent, she's pale, her nurse's cap is tilted neatly to one side. Her hands are usually clasped together or reaching outward, depending on the night. And sometimes she hums, a lullaby barely audible. No one can place the tune, but it settles into your chest like something you've known since before you were born. In 1998, a man named Richard, one of the last nighttime security guards to work at Tranquille, shared his account anonymously in a local zine. It's since been pulled offline, but copies circulate in BC ghost forums to this day. He had worked at the site for roughly 3 weeks. Nothing strange, until one night in November, just after 2 a.m. He was making his usual rounds. It was cold, breath visible cold. He stepped into the tunnel entrance, part of the subterranean system used to connect the kitchen with the hospital wards, and saw someone ahead, a white figure, motionless. At first, he thought it was another guard playing a prank on him, but when he called out, there was no response. He stepped closer, maybe 5 feet, 3 feet, and then gone. No sound, no footstep, no draft, just silence. That was Richard's last shift. He left the keys on the desk and wrote a note that simply read, "She's real," and he never returned. Those tunnels, by the way, still exist. Some are collapsed, others are sealed, but a few are still accessible. And that's where most of the Lady in White's sightings occur. They say she lingers there because that's where she died. Or maybe that's where she waits. One visitor swears he saw a reflection of her in a broken shard of glass. Another claims she whispered something to him as he walked past the old children's ward. Something in a language he didn't understand. In 2015, a film crew tried to document Tranquille's paranormal history. Halfway through filming, their equipment began to fail. Batteries drained, audio distorted, cameras refused to focus on certain areas of the building. The only clear footage they captured is a single frame. The hallway, empty, except for a white blur, mid-frame. Arms extended, no feet. To this day, ghost tours occasionally operate around Tranquille. Locals leave offerings at the fence, flowers, letters, small tokens. They say it keeps her calm. They say it keeps her there. Because one thing is clear. The Lady in White isn't just a tale told by bored teenagers or Halloween thrill-seekers. She's part of Tranquille now. As real as the rust on the gurneys, as real as the names in the ledgers of the dead. And if you go looking for her, whether for answers or for proof or for thrill, remember this. Don't look into her eyes. They say that if you do, you'll see what she saw in her final moments. And you might carry that with you far beyond Tranquille. Thank you for joining me on this first descent into British Columbia's haunted past. If you liked tonight's episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, and be sure to follow Haunted BC wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an upload. We'll be back next week with another true tale drawn from the strange, the spectral, and the forgotten corners of this wild province. Until then, travel lightly, speak softly, and whatever you do, don't follow the humming.